Hey everyone, welcome to the Relationship Smith Show. We are live tonight So 1982 was a huge year for you.
Yeah.
You moved out, went to college. You got your very first film role, big film, it's big film role. You did
First
a
thing-
soap opera before that, and you lost your innocence. It's in the same year. I just want to know, like, how did you deal with that all? It was
well, that
a
was
lot of
because
stuff
I
going
had
on.
9 years before to get ready. Um,
Okay.
I started when I was 10, and I started, again, slowly, and going for auditions for things and not getting them, and then getting some things and working. I remember I did an extra in an Arby's commercial. It was very funny. Like it was a commercial where there was a cute guy in the foreground and myself and another girl in the background. And we didn't have any lines, but it was very important that we were looking at him and like being like, oh, he's cute. Like kind of having that sort of pantomime in the back. And like all those experiences, I did hand modeling, where I had to pick up a product and hold it. I had so many life experiences, where, I wasn't the lead, but I was, and I did an extra job on a film, Endless Love, and I was auditioned for The Exorcist, and I had Freaky Friday, and there was so many, The Bachelor, like there was so many films and things that I was going for that I got enough life training. And also, luckily, like again, I told you about my mom bringing me into the city. So as I got older, then I started going in by myself and meeting my dad. And then eventually I went in by myself and then went into the audition and came home by myself. And eventually I went to college in New York. And so I lived there. So it was a very gradual, uh, it was a chance to grow up. You know what I mean? It was a chance to gain independence slowly. I wasn't just thrown out there and go, okay, deal, live life, So that was a great thing. So by the time I was offered Last American Virgin, when I went and got that part, and they told me you have to fly to New York. I'm sorry, fly to Los Angeles. And if you get the part, you're going to stay. And if you don't, you're going to come home. I did that on my own. I was 19. I flew out to Los Angeles by myself, stayed in the hotel, screen tested, auditioned, and came back. Didn't come back, actually wound up shooting there. So I have to say that one of the things that I think is really important, if anybody's out there being an actor, you need to grow up in life and have experiences and practice being in the world before big things hit, if possible. Like I always say, like, for instance, there's times in the year where acting jobs do not happen. Like June is not a very big month because people are getting ready for the summer, and then August is usually when work picks up. So during that time, when the business isn't pushing, that's the time when you invest in yourself and your own personal development, and you read and you put yourself out there, and you test some things, and you go out, try things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. Right. If you were busy or whatever. Maybe you study something, or you whatever, learn archery, I don't know. But so for me, I was very
Gina Davis.
Timing. What would you say?
Worked for Gina Davis.
Worked for Gina Davis. Yeah. Go
she
work
learned
for
archery, the Olympic level.
All right, see, and then she's cool. So like,
yeah,
that's the other thing. Yeah, you learn from working with professionals. That's the other thing. So, it was a very big year, and I think the hardest thing about that year was figuring out who to trust, because when you're a young person and all of a sudden all this opportunity happens, you don't necessarily know. If you've got agents and managers, hopefully you gained a trust with them before. So when things hit, they can help you and they know you. I think it's very hard when things happen very early to anyone and they don't know who to trust, because this entertainment business there are people that, are not trustworthy. So I would have to say that I was fortunate. I was ready though. I was really ready, and it was exciting. And I just remember, I remember when I found out I got Virgin, and I was at home in my house, and I think I screamed. I was like, I was so happy, and I was happy I could share that with my parents too, because we worked, I mean, so long. We were
Yeah,
waiting
right.
for so long for me to get a break.
This was
And
a group win.
yeah, and I could not get a break. I mean, whether it, was because I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the connections, I didn't have, I just kept doing it, and you wait for that break. I was just actually talking to a bunch of other actresses that I know. We're a friend group. And I was talking about how Canon Films really gave a lot of people a break. And so now I am sure that there are companies who are just starting, and maybe they don't pay a lot, but they'll give the actor a break. And you need that. Like, young actors need to take that break. And those companies get a break because maybe they don't have to pay as much. But that is so important for the young actor to get those opportunities, and then they practice and they learn. So anyway, I could go on and on, but
And you paying it forward. You're giving us a break. Being on our show. We're new.
oh,
We're
thank
small.
you.
You're taking. You're paying it back in that way.
It's very important for me to help people, and because when I give information, some of it you may take in, and some might, whatever. It's not me. It's not my life.
Sure.
But if I can say something that inspires you, maybe you'll think later, oh, wow, I remember Diane saying this. And that really helped me, going through a hard time. If you're going through a hard time, let me just tell you something. There's no actor who's ever been an actor that didn't go through a hard time, because you want so badly to have parts. And sometimes, and sometimes you're put through the ringer. You go for an audition and you get a call back. I also find this with writers too. Like, a lot of times right now in the industry, artists and performers are asked to do so much more than they've ever been for free. Mm-hmm. And then and you do all this effort and then you don't get it. And it's very, it's not nice. It's not, aside from fair, it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes not even about sometimes not even just about not getting the job. It's about the effort. So at a certain point, a lot of actors might be like, I just can't make that effort anymore. I'm exhausted. And if that happens, you need to take a break and fill the cup, because we actors, you put out a lot of energy and then you need to rest. We work very hard and then you need to take a break. You work hard and you break hard. And I say that with any person, painter, musician, we work differently than the average person who goes to a 9-to-5 job. They live for the weekends. We don't have weekends. Artists live for the job. So.
And the work doesn't stop after the shoot, because then you have to do everything else involved in getting a movie in front of people's eyes, do the interviews and the.
Well, this is another thing too. With the advantage of having home computers and making your own projects, actors used to only be able to work unless they got hired. Nowadays, you're an actor, you can actually produce your own content. So that means writing, filming, producing it, acting in it, and then get it out there. And even even the studios are competing against a guy who has his own camera and makes his own stuff now. They're competing. Everyone's got $5. Where are we? Or $2, right?
$2.
Where are we gonna put my $2?
Nice.
Nothing lives. You can't even get a coffee for $2. So let's just say $20. Everyone's got $20. Do you put it to a movie? Do you put it to music? Where do you spend your money? So restaurants, everybody's competing for the same $20. And it's trickier. But I will say this: your time will come. It doesn't come when you want it. It comes when the world wants it, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part about being in freelance. You can't decide when the world is ready, But and by the way, when the world is ready, that's your opportunity. Get in there. It may not come again. So, I mean, the business
is every ounce you can.
Very different than when I started, in the 80s.
So I have a lot of questions around, around your first movie. But I want to just cut to the end, and the question that has me the most fascinated. At the end of the movie, the look you give to the main character at the end of the movie, you say was inspired by the breakup of your first boyfriend. Yeah. And it's touching. It's a real acting moment. I can see everything that informs the rest of the movie for me. your character in that second tells me what the whole movie was really about.
Oh,
Like, you do it. That's why I want to bring it up. And does that person that inspired that moment with you, does he know? Did
I
you ever
don't know.
tell him?
I don't know. No, I never told him. I never told
Okay.
him. But I don't know if he knows. That's a great question. In fact, out of all the interviews I've ever done, that question has never been brought up. So thank you
That's
for
the most powerful. You're welcome. That's the
Yeah.
most.
And that person, the most amazing thing to me was, I hope that person knows.
I hope they read your autobiography.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was
but
my girlfriend. I read her book.
That person meant tremendous amount to me. I was in love with this person, and I deeply in love, but it just couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. So, and there's a lot of guys right now who are thinking, "Am I it?" I'm like,
I hope every guy thinks that it is them.
Me? I don't know. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say.
There's another moment in your acting career that I think stands next to that, and I think you might agree with this. It is the scene in Second Time Lucky in the 1920s, and the line that you say that completely changes the rest of the movie. And do you think I believe it's something on lines? I'm not going to dig into it, but it's where you say, "Do you think I'm just a piece of trash?"
Oh,
when you're breaking up.
Yeah, I talk like this, and I'm like, it's trash, don't you? Well, and then I get tearful, and
you nailed it.
That scene.
You nailed it. I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know whenever you're having, like, the character's having a memory of their former selves or not. I'm not following it. And at that moment, I'm like, oh, this is a good movie. Like, it was really
right. This movie is the most confusing film ever. Okay, so this is an example, and I gotta say, I'm very grateful for the director, Michael Anderson, for casting me. This was a movie, and you probably haven't heard of it. It's called Second Time Lucky. It's really hard to get. It is a movie about Adam and Eve through time. And Adam and Eve, it's a time traveling Adam and Eve movie.
Your first time travel movie, I think.
Right, that's right. What is with time travel and me? There's a couple of subject things that I keep repeating in my life. That's very funny. Yeah, it's another time traveling movie. It is the 80s. So time travel's big.
Yeah, huge.
That's just, now you're making me realize I didn't even think about that. And
you're a Time Lord. You are a Doctor Who.
I am a Doctor Who. I'm the female Doctor Who. And it was originally, Bo Derek was supposed to have the role originally, which is just mind-boggling to me because we're so different. I don't even.
Very.
It's just very wholly different feeling about it. It's a sex teen comedy, but at the same time, with Bo Derek, it would have been, just more mature.
I think so too. You took every character very differently and seriously. Every character is a different character. No slighting in Bo Derek, I'm not sure how that would have worked out with that different actress or actor doing that.
That's what I'm saying. It's so interesting that you have another actor and it completely changes everything in that film. With me, when that was a really crazy thing because what happened was that movie was a rebound. Like I was supposed to, originally I was up for Amadeus to play the role of Costanza. And when I did not get that, and I was flown back to California, I was sent this script. And actually I was told I was offered the film and I need to meet the director. And wow, that was just like, that was such a roller coaster of an experience going and having that audition, which is a whole other story. But I loved it, and I love everyone involved in that, in Amadeus and the whole group of people who were involved, even Elizabeth Berridge. I think she's awesome, and I think there's only one thing I had a problem with her performance. Everything else she did great. I think she's awesome. But that was the whole thing. But regardless, when I was in this particular situation, when I did the film, they flew me to New Zealand to shoot this film, which was beautiful. I mean, what a place to make the Garden of Eden. And that character, Evie, I always see so much more in the roles I play. And, if you hired another actress, they probably would have made it very light and very silly. It's sort of like a Benny Hill film. but I have a lot of depth. So when I look at that film, I'm like, yeah, I can do the light stuff, but I'm going to give it some depth. So that's why when you saw that film, that section where I say that line, that had a lot of meaning, because
Yeah.
when I see depth in something, I go there. And so when you see that movie, there's moments which are like Benny Hill, and then there's other moments which are like Gone with the Wind, like so beautiful and
Yeah.
so romantic, and take you. I mean, that film, there was so many romantic scenes and so sexual and so sensual, and I love that. I just love that in the film. But I think that's because of who I am in the performance. You're gonna get more than you bargained for. Maybe you just wanted somebody to just be like, "Rah, I'm gonna like do the scenes and be body,"
Yeah.
and but
I think
that's
what
not me.
also helped make that is when you went up an octave with that character's voice, and it ended a little bit of silly. It was the lightest of the scenes, really, of the time traveling bits. And then
Yes,
you take it that when you get serious at that moment, I think that's what gets it, because you had the insight to, like, let's make this funny. It's 1920s. She's, a flapper, or was it, were they flappers
she's
in the 20s? Yeah.
dingbat. She was kind of
Yeah.
a dingbat.
And then
And
she
she's like,
wasn't.
Evie, she talks like this. And she was like, and funny, when I created the character, I was chewing gum. And I was like, chewing gum is the character. And at one point, I take my gum out and I throw it away. And that's when I lost my dialect. I'm like, I can't do this while I'm talking like I'm from Long Island. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, oh no, wait, So I really lost my dialect when I chewed that gum. So in that scene, I was like, okay, I have to remember where that voice comes from. It's from back here. And so like I was, sort of from my cheeks back here. So but that's so funny that you caught that. I appreciate that. Very
I
nice to
I
see that.
Hey everyone, welcome to Relationship Myth. We are live tonight with Eric.